Hello and welcome to wspodcast. My name is Wojciech Salski, I'll be your host for today. And before I begin, may I just remind you, if you find this podcast entertaining, useful in any way, shape or form, enhancing your life, then please follow the link below and subscribe. Click the the follow button as well. It helps the podcast to grow, and it definitely makes this whole adventure of mine a more pleasurable one because I see its results live as they happen. So yes, guys, here we are. I would say it's quite a surreal moment, even though it doesn't really matter at the same time. It's interesting how we rely on symbolism and we have so many rituals, rites of passage and so forth, milestones, if you will. And yet, it's just as any other podcast, really. Even though we are celebrating today, or I am celebrating today with you, hopefully, the 200th episode of this show. 200th official episode, because there were a few recorded that never has seen the light of day. Simply because, I didn't like what I recorded back then, and I decided it was not... it was subpar. So yeah, here we are. First and foremost, thank you so much for coming along for the ride. This special episode will have some looking back, we'll have some looking forward. I might share a few sort of ideas in between that I've noted down for you, and also I'm gonna create a little competition, if you will, and maybe somewhat of a contest or a raffle that just to give you a chance to receive some gifts from me and for me to celebrate, right? I thought whether I should maybe pop a champagne in front of you and then spill it all over my equipment and finish recording in panic, or maybe I should wear a happy birthday hat. Maybe I should ring some weird sounds from those toys you can get for birthday parties or for some sort of concerts or football, sort of noise making machines. But I've decided to celebrate it with basically putting on one more time, although it doesn't happen that often anymore these days, my loyal companion, my shirt, which was with me from the very beginning. And for those of you who remember still, yeah, you should remember, to be honest. It only happened a few weeks ago that we've rebranded. But for those of you who do remember the shirt from our first logo, and for those of you who don't, make sure to check out how the logo looked like earlier. You can still see it on some of the episodes and in some of the, promotional videos on Instagram or on LinkedIn or X, or whatever Twitter you call it. On YouTube in particular, because YouTube doesn't automatically change the thumbnails of the videos, so I think they're gonna be there forever, pretty much. I don't think I'm gonna go through them, at least not for the time being, to change. So yeah, I thought it's only fair to this shirt and to this occasion to wear it. So as you can see, it's quite worn out at this point. My grandma actually, my amazing grandma actually tried to save it a couple of times. And at some point she realized that, I should probably hang it on the wall or frame it and hang it. And I said, no chance. And so she came up with this wonderful idea of basically putting an underneath black shirt underneath this shirt, and in the end making it stay alive for a little bit longer, although it does look scruffy at this point. And for example, my girlfriend is not the biggest fan of me wearing it in public. which is fair enough, but since the shirt was there at the very beginning, it was for a long time a part of the logo. I thought it's only fair to celebrate the 200th episode milestone with it on. So here we are, Crazy stuff. So what we're going to talk about today, before I share with you the amazing, hopefully entertaining for you and fun to participate in contest, I would like to share with you a little bit about the podcast, kind of look back and maybe share a few ideas, thoughts, lessons learned that you might take forth in your journey of, podcasting and other, I think in general. And I'm going to share with you some of my vision for the podcast going forward, because I'm really, really, truly interested in learning what you think about it. So I'm going to pop some ideas, and I'm just curious, you know where to find me. I'll make sure to put the link below to my direct professional email, where you can reach me and suggest any other changes or changes to those changes and visions that I will outline today. I will also share with you some of the inspiration behind the podcast, and maybe yet again reiterate which podcasts I listen to, or a few of them at least, that you might be interested in exploring if you've not yet already. And then I will, share with you this idea for the contest, and maybe finally give you some few ideas, more like questions, for your own self. And what you want to do with them, it's up to you, I kind of feel that one of the functions this show seems to have for people around me is to inspire them or encourage them to try something for their own, which doesn't seem to be, a successful venture to begin with. And let me sort of elaborate on that. Apparently, there is something like millions, probably hundreds of millions of shows being produced, and it's only getting more and more traction these days. And so in a similar way as you would maybe try to approach a show business idea, or becoming a professional actress or such feats, maybe a professional football player that actually plays in the championship league, it's one of those things that, we're often, I know I am, people seem to be often discouraged or worried, apprehensive about starting something when they think the potential of success is rather low, right? It takes a great amount of work and consistency and plenty of luck, I think, to be able to succeed in some of these, although I think in many other also, ideas, ventures, themes, goals, especially when the competition is so strong, right? The difference between competing on the world stage as the professional athlete and competing on the local level, maybe as a professional athlete for a small football team in a small town, there is a huge gap in between, and that gap has to be bridged through hard work, a fair amount of luck and dedication, and then yet again also opportunities placed, because unfortunately, life isn't fair, and there are many situations in which, even though you might have done all you could, it seems like luck is not on your side. And I think, the way I perceive this show and its growth and its ups and downs and my vision for it, I have definitely hit many walls, and I am yet to hit many more, and had many crises in regards to it, whether I should continue, especially at the very beginning. But then every now and then I do get those maybe not necessarily pleasant comments from some of my close allies, one could say. Supposedly they are my allies or peers, and oftentimes I also wonder myself, like, to what degree should I continue, especially when the going gets hard, right? It's one of those. It's very similar to trying to learn a new move in jiu-jitsu, or figuring out a way to pass those the next round of exams when you seem to just not understand what's going on. And I keep remembering again and again that consistency is what keeps the ball rolling, and until you decide to leave it, you've not failed, right? And so obviously there is something to be said for the quote from Einstein that doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result is madness. I hope that's not the case, and I do see results happening. They just take time, and definitely, they are maybe not as quick as one would expect them to be at times, and also surprisingly sometimes they are much quicker than I've expected. So it ebbs and flows. It's like there is no consistent growth. There are like spurs of ups and downs, and depending on the topic I've decided to cover, depending on the book I've decided to review, or the conversation I've had with someone, and the show seems to be doing better or worse. And I guess that's life, right? We don't always have the best day of our life every day. It often shifts and flows. And so, looking back, especially as I started the show thinking that it's going to be mostly about my own stories that I've been writing, very quickly realizing that maybe that's not enough, especially for myself, because as I've been working with my own stories, I seemed to not make enough space for other greater minds to express themselves through my words and through my discussions on the show. And so I sort of pivoted once or twice. I started inviting people to participate on the podcast, and that's definitely going to continue as well. And then I came up with the idea that maybe I would also review some books for you, simply because whatever I find useful and interesting in them might be something that you resonate with. And quite frankly, looking back, I think that was one of the greatest changes I've done to the podcast. So even though I've kept many of the old ways, and I sort of pivoted rather than completely scrapped the approach from before, I found that making book review episodes greatly enhanced the podcast's reach, and also gave me more space to explore concepts and ultimately learn about them, right? Because as we've talked again and again, there is something to be said for the quality of relearning you have to do when you're explaining something to another person. And effectively, I am explaining these concepts, ideas, themes to you when I'm reviewing these ideas and so forth. Similarly, right now, I'm freestyling, monologuing my thoughts out there, and with a goal in mind of making this a pleasurable, audible adventure for you as well as for myself, and trying to figure out what can I share with you that matters to me. And so in a way, I'm thinking out loud, right? That's basically what a monologue or a spontaneous monologue, a truly spontaneous one, seems to be for me. So one great highlight of the early adoption of the podcast was that I've realized very early on that I can help others set up their own podcasts, which I did as well. I've created a little show series for a startup I used to support and work for as a freelancer for some time. And I also created a show for my mentor at the time, with whom I've discussed finances and personal finances and investing strategies, and basically becoming more savvy and more understanding of the value of money. And funnily enough, you can still see that show on my YouTube platform. It's just under a different name. I think it's called Wealth Education or something like that. I'll put the link below for you if you're interested. It's a series of webinars that I've done, which were sort of in a podcast format with some live audience participating in the meantime. And it's just one of those. It's amazing as you learn some things and as you experiment on your own, as you learn to do something. After some time, you might find that people will ask you to help them do that same thing, because maybe they want to have their own podcast, or maybe they want to create their own whatever. Maybe they're looking for someone to explain to them something that you already know. And then, not only can you help another, but you can potentially find that as a source of employment, of work. And I actually did for some time, which was really, really amazing. I that was something very unusual for me, and surprising, but also quite natural if you think about it. Since after doing something for quite a few years, you definitely become somewhat of an expert in how to do that thing, supposedly, if you do it fairly well. Of course, if you kind of not pay much attention to it, you just kind of do it, you coast all the time, then the quality of your work would be of a lower grade. And that's one of the other inspiring and empowering, I hope, invitations for you from this journey of mine is, if you know something you can do well, and you're looking for something to do, maybe you're considering becoming a freelancer in something. The best place, in my opinion, to start is to figure out what can you do right now that someone cannot, and offer these learning curves for other people as a product, as a service, right? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something that tickles your fancy, as they say. Now, in terms of the fun facts I wanted to share with you for today, I wanted to just briefly walk with you through our top 3 episodes, which those are, and I'll link them below as well for you to decide. I'll just write it down, actually. So yeah, let's see which episodes are the most popular ones in today. So yet again, still the top episode is the most loved episode is still the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and second top is Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins, which is amazing. Both of these books are really, really powerful spiritually, in my opinion. So it's interesting that these are the two that stand out. And unsurprisingly, the third most watched episode is the first episode of the whole show. And I guess that makes sense, because majority of people would start with that one if they were to just begin their journey at the journey's beginning. One more thing I wanted to share with you yet again is just the incredible audience we have here. And some of you might be those I talk about right now. So far it seems that I don't know how many is there, but there is at least tens, well, let's say 50, 60, at least 60 countries I can straight away see on the list that people are tuning in from. And overwhelming majority comes from United States, United Kingdom and Poland, and then Germany, Australia and Portugal and India are the next few that I can see. So, this is just a fun fact for me, maybe a bit more than for you. I find it incredible. I find it empowering. It's definitely one of those things that is just a fun thing to realize that as you do what you like and you hopefully share it with the world in a way that helps them in some or entertains them in the least. Although I hope I'm not doing this solely for your entertainment. I do truly believe that there are some quality thoughts to be shared there. It's just empowering and interesting to see who's tuning in, and in some ways I feel strongly connected to the United States at this point, which is funny because I've never been to the United States, not yet. I'm definitely gonna go. And of course, I see a lot about the USA in different medias, and I am listening to podcasts that are founded there, so it's no surprise. Plus, apparently, USA has one of the biggest podcast listener base in general in the world. And you guys were one of the early adopters of this new medium. But yeah, it's an incredible and peculiar feeling, to have never visited a country and yet to know that someone's out there tuning in such an overwhelming group as well. It's literally for every other listener there are like four or five United States-based listeners that are tuning in. So it's just incredible. I find this truly, truly wonderful. So wanted to share it with you. I know that's just a little fun fact. Now, let's maybe I'll briefly remind you which podcasts I would recommend, or maybe which podcasts are the inspiration for this one. So as you might remember, the first podcast that truly touched me on a deeper level and made me want to shape this show into the show it is right now, funnily enough, is the podcast of Noah Rasheta called Secular Buddhism. Secular Buddhism podcast. I do believe he's still active. I don't know how much. He seemed to be more active back a few years back when I was listening to. But yeah, that's definitely a beautiful show for you to check out, and I'll put the link below as well for that one, as well as the classic Joe Rogan's podcast, which by now I'm pretty sure is the most known podcast ever. Apparently like 300 million people tune into an episode on average, and that's just like that's another ball game, but that's something to strive for. I do consider his show to be a true beacon of how to create a safe and truthful, with a big T, honest, sincere space for people to simply talk. And I'm hoping, I'm wishing, I'm aiming to, in the future, create a similar space in a show, and a show that allows people to do that as well. I find it fascinating, and I will definitely recommend you to check it out if you've not yet. But I would be surprised if you're listening to this show and you've never heard Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, Jordan Peterson's show, it depends on the topic. Some of these topics are really, really difficult, and so I understand that it might not be as pleasurable for people as Joe's podcast, for example. But for me, as I said again and again, Peterson's work has been greatly impactful in my sort of early 20s, and so I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for some wisdom that I've gained from listening and reading that man's work. And finally, an interesting podcast that in particular my logo was inspired by is The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, a wonderful, wonderful show that is mostly an interview-based show, which is also a big change, a big difference between mine and his. But it's definitely one of those that is both for younger audience, such as the majority of you, and with many, many interesting guests coming along and sharing their stories and sharing their thoughts. And that's definitely something I would like to also emulate into the future. So these are the 4 podcasts that I listen to with pleasure and that I get inspiration from and insight from on the daily basis, apart from, the books and other mediums I'm engaging with. Let me share with you the vision for the next few years. So we're on the 200th episode, which basically means, and we're somewhere around the 2.5-year mark when it comes to since the show was founded. Maybe even more. Yeah, well, somewhere somewhere around that area, maybe 3 years now. So I thought like maybe a good vision for the next few years would be to aim for the 400th episode, right? We'll probably have another check-in then, and let's see if there is a reason to do a 300th episode special. So I will definitely, my vision for the show is definitely to increase the number of interviews I do. And I think that's realistically going to happen within the next year. Currently, I don't really have the space suitable for comfortable interviews. And so I'm reluctant to, it's not the same if you record interviews online. And if I were to start recording in person, I would like to have a space in which my guest also feels comfortable, and that we're not sitting, really squeezed into one another on a couch. With friends, that's fine, but with people on a more professional sort of level of knowing and less personal one, I think it would be great to have them in a more comfortable space. So I do hope to create a more accommodating studio in the next year. So I'll keep you posted on that. Secondly, I'll definitely start creating more seasons with themes. So as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm planning to basically do like a series of books about geopolitics and a series of books about the world, like biology and chemistry and geography and stuff, and maybe a series of books about spiritual cases, and a series of fiction books that you might want to engage with. So I've had some positive feedback around that topic. I think it's a good idea. It seems like it's a good idea. So it might actually increase the number of episodes I will be creating as well. I'll see how it goes. It depends on my ability to accommodate it throughout my life, because I'm not doing this full time. This is my side hobby, side hustle, side passion, side love. So I'll keep you posted on that, but I would expect maybe by the end of May to have the first outline of the first season ready, because I'm going on vacation soon. So over the next month and a half, I will sort of be jumping in and out. I want to take some time as well with my family and with my girlfriend to enjoy spring and to enjoy my time for vacation, which is coming up shortly. And I will most likely also start creating more short content on Instagram and Twitter. If you've not yet, please follow and subscribe, to these platforms. It helps the podcast to grow as well. And I usually share like once a week short trailer or short video of some thoughts from the episode. And I also just have that space for people to engage with and maybe reach out. And it's definitely the space where I get more people to engage with the podcast for the first time, because it's not so easy to find an unknown to yourself podcast on Spotify or on YouTube unless you're looking for it, right? So I think social media is crucial in driving growth of the show going forward. So I'll probably dedicate myself to that more. Now, before I go any further and maybe share some ideas with you, just to feel how you feel about them, I wanted to share with you a few lessons, greatest challenges, and greatest highlights of the show, or of the production of the show, of my experience with it. And I hope these are simply supportive for you and for your own goals, ideas, dreams. Maybe I'll start with the lessons first. In terms of the first major lesson, I've already sort of spilled the beans a little bit, is this idea that consistency beats talent every day. That's the quote that I have above my desk. That's the quote I have written on my notebook. It's the quote that I live by. And I think the podcast and its, at least for me, the experience with it is definitely one of many proofs of this concept working. Whatever you dedicate your time and attention to, and whatever you truly want to do, and so you put your heart into it, you get results. As simple as that. And as long as you don't waver, as long as you don't stop, as long as you don't, as long as you want to do it, of course, but as long as you don't give up, you will see results. It might just not happen as quickly or exactly as you expected it to happen. And so in a way, it's like a prayer, right? You pray that it will work out, you do all you can, and then you give over the results to God, universe, fate, luck, whatever you want to call it. Secondly, I found that, and this is an interesting, or surprising maybe, I don't know, is it surprising? I guess now it isn't. And at the beginning it was. I found that it's easiest for me to record a fun show, to record a great episode, when I allow myself to be myself. I find that I don't struggle with expressing myself as much as I would if I was trying to put some sort of a persona. I think it's especially true when it comes to interviews. I've had some interviews, I've conducted some interviews where I tried to appear more somehow than I really was, maybe more knowledgeable or more professional or more mature, whatever. And it always made me feel like that particular episode or that particular interview didn't go as well as I thought it could go. And I think it's a testament to this idea of, similarly to what I said about Joe Rogan's podcast, that sincerity and truthful expression really does ring differently. It allows you, in whatever you do, if you're true to what you do, if you're true with yourself, most importantly, you're unlikely to be upset about the outcome. I mean, that's from my experience. it's not necessarily that I feel completely comfortable at all times when I'm talking to you. I still stumble with my words. I still have some days when I feel like, this, maybe my face is not looking too great. Maybe I'm feeling a bit stiff, a bit stressed. There were some episodes where I had to cut a few pieces in the middle because someone, started banging on the wall, or the postman decided that this is the right moment to keep ringing the doorbell, or my flatmate, didn't really pay much attention to the fact that I was recording. Funny story about this. Someone commented under one of my videos recently on YouTube, why does your flatmate hate you? And I just commented back saying, I don't think he does, or something like that. And I just thanked him for the comment. But I thought, like, is this really how it turned out in that episode? I did not listen to the episode, so I don't know what exactly I said. I doubt I said that my flatmate hates me. We're like brothers from another mother. But, what's the whole point of this is, like, I do believe, and I do see its results so far, at least, or maybe I choose to see them, and so I do. Speaking about our perspective, I truly believe that by being truly open and sincere with what I'm sharing with you, I am able to not only feel more relaxed when I do so, and less conflicted when I share it with the world, but I'm likely coming off more true, because I am. And so in a natural way, it can be attractive and interesting to those that resonate with it, right? So the whole, I think we've discussed that on some show sometime not long ago, that if I were to put on a certain persona at all times, if I were to, have a certain manner of acting out which is not mine, I would be attracting people that resonate with that persona and not with me. And so in a way, I would be speaking to not my audience, right? If I want, obviously, one could say there is a space for manipulation then, and yeah, fair enough. I don't really engage with that. I don't think there is much benefit to it. But if I want truthfully for this show to be useful and interesting for people that resonate with ideas that I resonate with, what better way of attracting these kind of people like yourself than by sharing what I truly resonate with in a way that is truthful for me, right? Because that way I am actually attracting my people, my crowd, right? So yeah, that's definitely the second lesson for me after all these years of recording myself, that it's easiest to be yourself. And I think it also applies to all the interviews you're gonna have and all the dates you will encounter, all the interactions with people. If you are yourself and the person doesn't resonate with you, that's just not your person. If you are yourself and the company doesn't seem to appreciate that, that's just not the company for you, And I think if you approach it from that perspective, I think you'll be much happier and at least much less stressed about the whole activity, the whole ordeal. At least I am. And finally, I found that as you get to know more and more, especially on the wisdom side, I thought what this show is about, and I wrote this new motto, I guess, in search of wisdom and self-awareness. And it truly does ring sincere and honest that there is this idea that the more you know, the more you learn, the more you know you don't know. It's like it's like looking into the cosmos. The further you look, the more you find, and the further you have to look to find more. So especially with reading more books and especially with learning more actively over the past few years, I think by now I've read, just on the account, just for the benefit of this podcast, I think I must have read 100 books by now. Not that I've recorded all of them, but they're definitely there. I average 70 or 65 books per year, more or less. The thing is, like, the more you learn, especially about topics that you thought you already know quite a bit, the more you realize there is so much more to know. It's like an endless journey. It's I find it entertaining and insightful and pleasurable, and so I do it. But it's very humbling, and also it helps you to remind yourself that it's okay that you don't know everything, right? If I were to first learn everything I could before I would record my first episode, then you would not be seeing any episode anytime soon. I think there is a great benefit to action as you go, rather than this, paralysis of, if only I knew more, I would be able to start. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. If you want to start, you gotta start. Make sure to keep learning as you go, and maybe learn the basics before you start, but don't hesitate and don't wait too long, because you're basically wasting away that time that could be used for learning. And so, for example, speaking like this in front of a camera for a prolonged time at the very beginning was stressful for me, and awkward in many ways, and I didn't really know how it's gonna turn out. But by now, it's not that it's easy, but it's definitely much more pleasurable, and I've learned so much over that time that I don't mind it anymore. And there are other problems that I have to deal with right now. The ones from before don't matter. You overcome, improvised, and you move on. So now, in terms of the greatest challenges, I'll just quickly run through them and share one particular. For sure, time is one of those. If you want to start a show and you do it, and you want to do it on a consistent basis, you gotta get ready that it's gonna take up some time, especially at the beginning. On average, I think I dedicate around 3 hours per week for this show, and that's not that much. But then, if you think about it in the context of also reading all the books that you do, or maybe doing research all you do, that's probably more like 6-7 hours. So it's like a working day, and it's doable. I would encourage you to do it if you're interested. Just be aware of that was one of the greatest, and still is one of the greatest challenges of creating this. Secondly, I think sound quality is in particular. I was never so strong about sound quality when I was studying film and TV. I quite frankly, it seems to be one of those things that, like, I even deleted sound once in a project that really pissed off my team, and it just seems like sound and me don't go together well. So I think moving forward, I'll definitely be looking for someone to take care of my, sound recording quality, especially when the podcast scales and when I have someone to actually help me create it. And finally, I've shared with you this in the episode My Kuwaiti Adventure, this problem that I've had about criticism, right? It was completely not up my manager's street that I was recording a weekly show. She didn't like the idea that I recorded the podcast. She didn't like the idea that anyone could hear anything from my mouth. I was supposed to just do my job and, as they say, keep quiet. It's a pleasant way to say it, I guess. And it was one of the most stressful times of my life, especially the conflict that arose between me and my manager and my immediate team member in Kuwait. But also in particular, I remember it was very stressful when my manager told me to stop writing and stop recording, and I had to decide: am I gonna, defy her order and just continue and risk potentially being fired or some other consequences, or am I gonna quit? And it just popped up for me again and again when I thought about it, and I shared it with my family, that I'm sorry, but there are some things I'm not willing to give up, and this is one of those things. It's mine, it's outside of my working hours, although with that particular manager there was no outside working hours time because she was a workaholic, but and she expected you to be the same. But it was one of those situations that I just had to decide, and I had to also shut down the thoughts that were arising when I got criticized for what I was doing, and when I was told so many unpleasant words, the ideas people tell you when they want you to stop doing something. Then the majority of them are like, you can't, it won't work, it's useless, and so forth. So that was probably one of the most challenging moments in time that, since I'm sharing it with you today, that means it still rings particularly vibrant in my mind and heart. Now, finally, the greatest highlights of the show is definitely the emails and support that I get from you. I will ask you yet again to please send me a suggestion if you think any of these ideas and any of the themes or books you'd like to see more. It warms my heart to get those comments and to get the support. Some of you are supporting the podcast financially, which is even more incredible. It certainly empowers me as well on my journey to develop this show further. And particularly I find that to be greatest highlights, the feedback I get. And one person in particular one time told me, I wasn't even that close with that person. I think she was a friend of a friend, and completely out of the blue, I think it was like we must have met somewhere with other people, and she just approached me and told me that my podcast helped her with like some mental health troubles that she had, some thoughts, some worries and so forth. And that was just so powerful, like this is not even a therapy podcast per se. Of course, I might share some ideas here that hopefully will help you, but it's not, I'm no, professional psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. I simply share some of my thoughts and ideas and some things that worked for me. And I found that incredible and incredibly rewarding, so that's definitely one of the greatest highlights of the show itself, that particular interaction I had. Finally, I just wanted to share with you the things I'm thinking about, and some of them were supposed to go into the contest, but I've decided against it just yet, simply because I don't know if I have capacity for it, and also I'm not sure if you would be interested. So I would be particularly interested if you could share with me your thoughts on these topics. So first of all, someone suggested for me that I should probably start some sort of merchandise. I don't really know if that's the moment for it. I do have some ideas what the merchandise could look like. Most of it would be something that I would be proud of to represent. So please let me know if that's something interesting, and should I pursue that idea further. The show is still advertisement free, and I'm planning to keep it that way for the foreseeable future. So maybe a merchandise could be a way of bringing in some income to the show. Secondly, I thought about organizing some webinars, and that was actually an idea that was supposed to be like the first prize of the competition, that maybe we do like an online call, maybe surrounding how to do something, maybe how to set up your own podcast, maybe you would like some support with just finding some goals or disciplines in your life. I do find that particularly useful. I used to coach one of my friends, and I do believe that there is value to be had there. But I thought, maybe let's see what you say. I don't want to commit to things that will take up a lot of my time and will not be considered useful for others. So it's kind of one of those, like, I would like to learn whether or not you would be interested in me facilitating these kind of maybe webinars, maybe some special episodes about certain topics and so forth. So please feel free to also let me know. And finally, a live event, right? So I think maybe that's also something to be left for later, but I would love to, and like that's definitely a dream, and it will come true sooner or later. I would love to meet some of you in person, So I thought maybe, I don't know, let's see, but maybe within the next 2 years, I could organize some sort of a conference, some sort of a live event to which listeners could have a chance to come and kind of, maybe have some workshops, maybe some interviews, maybe some talks with people that were either guests on the podcast or are supporters of it. And basically to start a community around it, because right now it's a one-way street, right? I can only get your feedback if you email me or if you comment, but I don't get to truly engage with you on a human level. And I think at some point I'd love that. It's one of those things I'd love to create. So let's see. Let me know what you think about it. Now, finally, I would encourage and emphasize this. I would encourage you to consider, if you find this talk about the show or any of those, discussions we've had about achieving goals and doing something you love, if you find this inspiring and you have something of your own that you'd like to do, maybe a book you'd like to write, or a podcast you'd like to start, or a film you'd like to make, or whatever. It doesn't have to be creative. It can be something that is just your project or a business. I would just encourage you to try, to think it through. There are so many tools out there right now. You can support yourself with AI to accelerate the whole process. And, it's certainly one of those things that, as I said, until you start, you're not going to get any feedback. So if you're hesitant to start and you're not sure if that's something you want to do, it's probably best to just do it. And then you'll know straight away if that's something you want to do or you don't want to do, right? So, maybe that's something you'd like to explore. Check it out. I encourage you to do so. Now, finally, when it comes to the competition, whatever you want to call it, how do you call it? A raffle time. I have 3 rules, right? Three steps you gotta take to participate. And I will put on the screen in a moment these steps outlined as well for you to see, but I'll explain each of them. So step number 1 to participate in this raffle, you gotta follow or subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or other channel you're listening the show on, right? If it's Apple Podcasts, fair enough. If it's Deezer, fair enough. Whatever that is, Google Podcasts and so forth. And I will need a proof of that, right? So in step number 3, you will be sending me an email, And in that email, as a proof, I will want a screenshot of or a photo or whatever of you following or subscribing to one of my podcast channels, right? Second step, you gotta follow and comment on TikTok or Instagram account. Both of them are linked below. And you gotta give a follow or subscribe to either of them. And you gotta comment under any of the posts out there. There will be one also dedicated for this particular show, mentioning 3 of your friends, associates, colleagues, whatever, that you think this show would benefit from. And this is a simple ask, right? Basically, I want you to spread this message forward. And, obviously it will help the podcast to get more people to see it. And hopefully it will empower your friends also to explore some of these ideas or other podcasts as well, especially that apparently not that many people actually listen to podcasts, which is surprising for me. And step number 3, you gotta send me a short email with both the proof of you following, subscribing to Spotify, YouTube, or other channel, as well as tell me basically what genre, what topic, what theme of a book you'd like to receive. And now, why do I ask for that? It's fairly simple now, right? I will basically run this competition, this raffle, for exactly a month. So this is happening right now on the 14th of April. And on the 14th of May will be the cutoff, the end for this, promotion, I guess, a celebration promotion raffle to happen. And after the 14th of May, I will figure out who wins. There will be 3 winners, 3 people 3 listeners that will win. And I will announce the results after I come back from my holiday at the end of May. I will basically probably ask some of my friends, maybe my brother, to facilitate a little, fair and square raffle of all those people that entered their participation. And I will send you a signed copy of the book of a genre of your choosing. Yes, I know you might have read it, and because of that, I will make sure to contact you via email in advance to make sure that you have not read that particular book. And I will also give you some bonus things, right? So I don't want to spoil that. There is a surprise there as well. But basically, what you get from it, in simple terms, is a book of my choosing, but about a theme or a topic or a genre that is of your choosing, that you've not read before for sure, with a signature from me and a little extra. And it's one of those celebratory activities, I guess, that I'm experimenting with it for the first time as well. I can already feel myself blush as I say it, because I've never done this before, you see. So this is happening in real time. That's how you make history. You learn as you go. So yeah, simple and straightforward, I hope, guys. Just to reiterate, follow or subscribe on Spotify and YouTube or other channel, and you gotta send me a proof of that. Follow and subscribe on TikTok or Instagram, and comment with mention of 3 friends on under some of the videos. And then send me a short email under this episode. Send me a short email mentioning which book, what book, what theme you would like to receive from me, and I will be in touch. I give you exactly a month from now to make up your mind, to click those few things, to send me that email, and good luck. I hope that I'll be sending you a dedication soon. So yeah, I hope that's something fun. I know it will be fun for me. I'm particularly interested to see just how far I will have to send the book. Because I bet, God or luck or whatever would have it, I bet there will be at least one person somewhere far, far away in the world that will be receiving a book from me, and that will be one of the first times I will be sending a book so far. So that's a fun little first time for me to participate in. So yeah, guys, yet again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It's truly that, like, without you to listen, I might have continued for some time, but there is something to be said for lack of motivation, especially if you don't see any results whatsoever. And I'm not saying they happened quickly, but with every time I get a positive feedback or criticism, but constructive criticism, every time I get some sort of resonance regarding the show, I feel more and more empowered and sort of enlivened to continue. So thank you for staying with the show for the past 200 episodes. That's just the beginning. We're here for the long run. I certainly am. And I hope you like the new studio. I have no doubt there will be another one coming soon enough to facilitate some interviews. And let's be in touch. I'll probably have another 1 or 2 episodes just before I go on holidays, but I am winding down a little bit. Spring is coming. I have some trips planned, so I will be back with you fully in June. So yeah, as an invitation, as you might remember, basically think about what makes you happy, and maybe something that you don't do often enough, or maybe you've hesitated to start doing it still. And I would encourage you to try. I would encourage you to do that first move, make that first episode, write that first page, ask that person out if it's more romantic. So yeah, other than that, thank you so much for being here. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.